The entire world believes that people who were abused in some sense, their destiny is determined by their parents' actions. It is not true. Welcome back to day 11. Course story. I was abused. And if you were abused by somebody at some time in your life, I want you to know that I have deep, deep empathy for you before I get started on this, right? And you are probably not going to agree with me on many of these things. And your mind would not want you to agree with me. So I would like you to be really checking in to see, rather than just going with the standard protocol of the Freudian idea that, the parents, the mom, dad, people want to sleep with their mom, and that's exactly why we have all these problems. Framework, throw it away for a second. And I know Freud was one of the smartest people who lived in the last 200 years, almost one of them. That being said, whatever he said, it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be 100% true. So the idea of subconscious, fascinating idea introduced by Freud, that we have this word subconscious because of him. So many contributions, but I would like you to throw everything that you know about psychology for a second, for this next 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then listen to this, and then we will have a conversation. Otherwise, it's going to be challenging. So I would like you to come up, be open to this idea, and let's get started. So here is the thing. The entire world believes that people who were abused in some sense, their destiny is determined by their parents' actions. It is not true. Why is it not true? I could tell you scientifically. There is a concept called epigenesis. Epigenesis means that you were abused so much by your parent, your genetic system has changed, and now it's affecting you. That is a very nominal percentage of the population. The parents has to abuse, or parents or somebody has to abuse you significantly. It's serious abuse, serious abuse. And if you went through that, I have empathy and compassion for you, and it's going to be slightly more challenging if that's the case, right? That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about moderate to high abuse, right? Anybody abused you, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm stuck in this life. But if you're if you wanted ice cream and your dad didn't give you ice cream, that's not abuse, right? This is where we are today in the society, right? Nobody want to reprimand, correct their kids anymore, because everybody's caught up into the story. This story that, oh my gosh, if I do this thing, then my kid is going to be going for therapy. If I do this, that is going to happen. If I do this, this is going to happen. If I just don't give him candies, then, oh my gosh, he's like, oh, when I was 17, when I'm 27, I didn't make dinner for him, and I didn't give him candies, and because of that, he became a sociopath. He became a serial killer. That is not how it works, guys. And I know I'm exaggerating about this, but that being said, understand that it takes a lot of commitment and hard work and consistent effort and hard work and abuse to create epigenesis, to transform the brain itself. And that could rarely happen. That could be diagnosed to see if there is a genetic there is a difference in the gene itself. If there is a difference in neurology itself, that is an exception. If you're listening to this, you don't have that. So I just want to say this, okay? Cool. Now it's a curse story. So what does that mean? It's a curse story. It's a curse story that we all believe that, if parent were if we went through some sort of trauma, some sort of extreme experience in life, then all of a sudden we have a problem. So let me give you a classic, interesting examples. Some of the epic people in the world, start with Krishna. Krishna, when he was born, somebody said, oh, this is going to be the king of the king, and all of a sudden Hamsa wanted to kill him, and it was not just him. He was trying to kill anybody in that young age, so that Krishna doesn't become the king. What a traumatic experience that is. Let's look at Christ, early childhood, similar thing. Somebody said, oh, he's going to be the king of the world. He's kind of probably they were talking about a philosopher king. But all of a sudden what happened was everybody around him was killed. He had to move to another location. What a scary thing to do. When he was 12 years old, he went for debating with some people, and all of a sudden, 3 days, he was gone. Imagine you are 12 years old, your parents abandoned you for 3 days. That is worth therapying, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't go for therapy. I'm giving you an extreme examples to represent the idea. And then you will be like, okay, the examples that you're saying are all like great, phenomenal people. This was part of their big destiny. No, it's not because of that. These were like, some of them were ordinary people. Some people are ordinary people, had this experience. Shankara was an ordinary, regular guy from Kerala, particularly from my state where I'm from. I was born in Kerala. So Shankara, like he was bit by a crocodile. The crocodile was pulling him down in a lake when he was really young. And then the mythology is that crocodile let him go because he said he is going to dedicate himself to the well-being of the world. So if you look at everyone's life, there are some stories, if you look for it, that created tension, that created confusion. So if you look at the Eastern world, and I have the opportunity to work with a lot of people in Eastern world and Western world at the same time, and I see that in the Eastern world, the effect of a parent reprimanding or correcting, or even even taking a tiny spatula and giving them a small slap when they make a mistake. It's not a traumatic event. In the Western world, it became a really traumatic event. Like even correcting, kids would say, "Oh, can you not talk to me like that? You have like too much intensity." It has become a story that we all believe in. We have to be oversensitive. We became oversensitive, and if you look at the world, nobody can say anything. Nobody can say anything that you have to apologize for something that you said 20 years ago. Why? The reason is because we became oversensitized to this idea that we want to be really correct. We don't want to hurt anybody. It's not hurting. I'm not asking you to hurt anybody. The point is that the general, regular, so-called abuse, it's not affecting you if you're willing to change the story. And if you're open to it, continue listening to this. So what is a curse story? A curse story is a story that is pulling you back, that is helping you to stay and not claim your highest destiny. It's pulling you back and keeping you where you are right now. Not enough money, not a relationship, not enough joy, not enough happiness. Maybe some people are depressed, some people are sad, some people are anxious, some people are frustrated, some people are too angry. It's a curse story, right? The thing is that you came to this planet joyfully and you forgot, you unlearned that you're joyful. Why? Because of some of these curse stories that somebody pushed you. You can drop that story today if you're willing to do that. So what's a blessing story? It's through a blessing story that we transform a curse story into a blessing story so that we could find freedom. What's a blessing story? A story that becomes a blessing. So every story in your brain is essentially unemotional data for the brain. But for you as a collective, it's a meaningful event. It has some meaning to it, right? So somebody, for example, I know some people, for example, if you look at Christianity, originally I came from a Christian tradition. Christianity, there was saints like Saint Teresa, who was sick all the time, right? She was sick all the time, but she's considered a doctor of church. You should study her. There are people who are Francis, an interesting Saint Francis, who's an interesting character in social cultural development itself, and they have to go through fasting. Imagine fasting for several weeks. Isn't it traumatic? It's kind of a traumatic event. The difference is the fasting was done by him. Nobody else did it to him. Makes sense? So the difference is when somebody is forcing you to fast, it's abuse. When you are doing it by yourself, it is not abuse. It's just an experience. So it's just a meaning thing, right? It's just affect us neurologically, same thing. You have a different meaning. That's what it implies. Another thing, like Saint Teresa, for example, you should study her. It's a fascinating character. Saint Teresa, she was sick. She lived until 21 years old. The entire period she was sick. But she was one of the most conscious and joyful human who lived in this planet. And she could always say that, oh, I have the sickness, I have this, I have that thing going on. And because of that, I cannot be joyful. I'm not asking you to suffer. That's not the idea here. The idea is that if you had lunch taken away from you for one night, if you had to walk to home because you did something crazy and your dad said, walk to home, or if your dad was like a little bit extra angry with you, that means today, like, oh my gosh, my dad was like a-hole. I cannot handle men anymore. That's the case. It's time to change the story. And even if you had something intense, and you could change it, because there is no major neurological, biological, genetic effect. There is only psychological effect. And you're like, oh, Ruble, this is so easy for you to say. Probably you had a really good life and you were really happy and you had great parents and everything. Yes, and yes. But that being said, understand this, it's your life. You could stay here and live a miserable life, or you could come out of the story. What do you want to do? And you could tell me, oh, Ruble, I'm a victim of this thing. Somebody did this to me. Somebody did that to me. I understand that. But do you want to stay here, or do you want to get out of this? Do you understand what I mean? Do you want to get out of this? You want to be free, or you want to be a slave? Do you like, nobody chooses to be a slave. I understand nobody chooses to be a slave. But you are here right now. You're talking to me. You're listening to me. We're having this conversation. Now you have the choice to be free. The gate to the cell that you are holding, you are being held on, it's open. That's not locked. You can open it and just get out of it and be free. Will you be free? That's a question. And if you are willing to do that, instead of probably judging me like, oh my gosh, he's very judgmental and I look at all the things that I had to go through. Yes, I understand that. I know I'm telling you this many times because I want you to really, really get into this. Because for you to get out of the story, you need to be ready first. If you're not ready, you're not going to get out of the story. So are you ready? If that's the case, put that in the chat. If you are ready to get out of the story that, oh, somebody abused me because of this happened. So yes, okay, put that in the chat. Awesome. So somebody abused you, loved you, somebody cared for you. This is intensity for your brain. That's it. It's an intensity. In other words, they're forcing their energy into you. That's what happened. So you have an energy as a human, as a species, you had an energy, and somebody else came in and said, hey, this is the energy. Your dad is like, this is how you're going to do it, right? This is how you're going to do it. Your mom is like, you better do it exactly like I said. Otherwise, you're going to face a consequence. So basically, they're forcing a behavior into you. They're forcing a pattern into you. They're forcing a habit into you. So you kind of accumulated their energy. So in other words, for your brain, for your body, it's a foreign energy. That's it. If you can understand it that way. And if it's love, it's the same thing. If your dad was really loving, you kind of embraced his energy, and you absorbed it. So it's kind of a choice energy. The other one is a forced energy. It's like pushed to you, like it's given to you. It's like you have no choice because you are son of this particular person. That energy is forced to you. Makes sense? So that energy is stored in your brain, in your body, in your mind as a story, as a curse story, which is what we're going to finish today. Excited? Awesome. If you're excited, put that in the chat. So this story has three elements. One is the story. Every story has a beginning, middle, and end. Beginning is, okay, I was born, I was happy, joyful. And then middle is like my dad, my mom, my cousin, my uncle, my somebody did this to me. And because of that, my life sucks. Like, do you see the conclusion? Like for some people, like two people from the same family, one person was like, both of them were really abused. They were like really like all the things that could possibly happen. One person becomes a serial killer, another person becomes a philanthropist. Why? Because the conclusion is different. One person said, you know what? I want to show my uncle that I decide my destiny. Let me show him that. That was his conclusion. This happened. This was the beginning of my life. This happened. This is what I'm going to do. Other person is like, you know what? My uncle did this to me. You know what? I'm going to show him. I'm going to do something that make him ashamed. That's what I'm going to do. That's why I decided to be a serial killer. Makes sense? So it's a meaning difference. So how would you handle that? So your story has a meaning right now. Your story has an energy right now. And your story has a context right now. So if you look at the story of I was being abused, you look at the story and for your own good. By the way, please understand that I have deep empathy for you. And if you're writing a comment, I'll still read it. At the same time, it's not about what happened anymore. You are here, I'm here, you need to move on and you need to be free. That is the only reason we are having this conversation. I'm not judging you. I have only compassion and love for you. And I want you to be free. And if you want to be free, let's change this meaning. So what is the meaning right now? What does this story mean to you? What could it mean so that you're free? What could it mean so that you're free? What could it mean? And you're like, oh, I cannot mean anything else. It's like, it's a story of a person who was, stop. What could it mean so that you are free? What else could it mean that you are free? Krishna could say, oh, I cannot live a life like this. People are trying to kill me left and right. Christ could say that. Shankara could say that. There are so many people who went through like unique experiences could say that. Instead, they chose to create their story. What is the meaning that you want? That will make you feel good. Maybe it made you tough. Maybe it made you independent. Maybe you become mature really fast because of that. Now that it happened, let's embrace it. Whatever that is for you, put that in the chat. What is the new meaning for you? What is the new meaning for you? Now let's go to the next one, which is, what is the emotion you're feeling about this story? What is the emotion that you're feeling about this story? And when you think about this story, what did you used to feel? Disempowered, depressed, sad, taken advantage of, not enough? It's not because I'm worthy, like lack of worthiness, or what did you feel? Lonely, depressed? What did you feel until now? But because of this new meaning, what could you feel right now? What could you feel right now because of this new meaning? What's the new meaning? What is the new emotion? Let's go to the third step, the final step, which is, what is the context of all this? A woman lost her son with a drunk driver. A drunk driver killed her son. The meaning could be, oh my gosh, let me go find and kill him back. That could be the meaning. Or, oh my gosh, men are horrible. It's a drunk driver man, let's say. Oh my gosh, let's go burn all the liquor stores. You know what she did? She processed the grief. And after she processing the grief, she said, you know what? I'm going to start something, Mothers MAD. I think it's called MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. So MAD. She started an organization. She found a meaning. Through that meaning, her son lives. Through that meaning, her son has a legacy. Because that kid going through an experience, and I don't know the answer to why that happened, but it happened. And because it happened, this mom was able to start MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. What is the meaning? What is the context of you? Or you had a trauma, you had gone through some challenges. How extreme, how not extreme it is, it matters for you and I. But if you are able to convert that intensity, of the trauma or the abuse into your true power, you become unstoppable. Because you already expanded your mind in its trauma, in the abuse, in whatever that you needed to do. You expanded your mind. Let's convert that. Let's transform that. Let's transition that into creating the highest destiny that you want to have in your life. That's what we're doing today. So, what is the new meaning? What is the new emotion? What is the new context? What is the new story? Now the story has changed, hasn't it? Now it's a story about freedom. And now you're like, oh my gosh, I don't need to go to therapist. You can continue going to therapist. I'm not against therapy or medication or meditation or anything. Continue whatever you are doing. But don't live in this story. Don't re-traumatize. and come back to this challenge or trauma, you're free right now if you choose to do so. Not because of me, but because of you. Because you are gifted, my friend, with the imagination that generates from your consciousness, where you are able to think about thinking. You're imagining because you can think about thinking. And because you being able to think about thinking, you can imagine a new world, a new story, a new destiny, a new mythology of you, and that becomes your mythology for your life. And that's what I'm asking you to do today. And I know this, like, it took you some time to get here, but I really appreciate you staying till this time in this video and working on yourself. And today, if you choose to, you're free. And how will you be free? Because you make this new blessing story a habit. The story habit. You remember this story, and remember this story, and remember this story, and remember this story. And then again, remember this story, and remember again, and remember again, until 30 days, until this becomes your new story. The story of the legend that you always wanted to become. The story of the business genius, the story of the person who created so much value. That's how you're going to grow your business to the next level, your career to the next level. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have an amazing, blessed day and blessed weekday, whenever you are. I'll see you tomorrow.